Hey guys, Credit Shivery here. Now the new Barclays Arrival Premier card has officially been released. You can now actually apply for it. And we did a video last week just going off some leaked information about it before it was officially released. We now do have a list of the actual transfer partners, and it's a little bit different than what we talked about in our last video. Some surprises, something a little bit disappointing, and some is actually kind of cool. Let's go through that list now. So the transfer partners are Aeromexico, Flying Blue, which includes Air France and KLM, China Eastern, Etihad, Ever Air, Japan Airlines, Jet Airways, Malaysia Airlines, and Qantas. So you can see from this list, it's quite Asia focused. Obviously you've got China Eastern, you've got Ever Air, which is from Taiwan, Malaysia Airlines, obviously from Malaysia, then Etihad, which is from the Middle East. And so it's quite an Asia focused list. Not one of them is American, and obviously we don't have JetBlue in there. We thought that perhaps JetBlue would be one, since Barclays card also issues the JetBlue card. That's not the case, although Barclays have said that they are looking at expanding this list in the future. So, and also we thought that American Airlines may be in there. Turns out that it is not. That was always a sort of borderline one anyway, but yeah, they're not in there. So now let's go on to talking about the transfer ratio. And last time we said, you know, depending on what the transfer ratio is, how many points you need to transfer to 1 point in these airline frequent flyer programs, that's kind of going to make or break the card as to whether it's a good value or not. So the transfer ratio for most of these airlines is 1.4 Barclays points to 1 point in the airline frequent flyer program. So 1.4 to 1. That's for most of them, except for Japan Airlines, which is 1.7 to 1. So with most of these, it works out because the card earns 2 points per dollar and it's a 1.4 to 1 transfer ratio. You're getting around 1.5 points of value per dollar. With the Japan Airlines, because it's 1.7 to 1, so you get about 1.2 Japan Airlines points per dollar spent if you're transferring all your points over to Japan Airlines. Don't forget, also with this card, you have a spending bonus. They didn't go for a sign-up bonus, but there's a spending bonus which you can get every year. So if you spend $15,000, you get an extra 15,000 points, and if you spend another $10,000, you get an extra 10,000 points. So it's a total of 25,000 points extra per year, and the spending for that would get you 50,000 points. So we're talking 75,000 points when you spend 25,000 per year, and you can get that every year. It's not limited to year one. So they've gone spending bonus route instead of a sign-up bonus. I think for some people that will make sense, especially, you know, if you're a big spender, you would have to spend, you know, roughly it's going to be $2,000, just a little bit over $2,000 per month on the card in order to get that spending bonus every year. And if you can do that, then it's definitely going to be a good deal, because that's basically 3 points per dollar spent. And so that's, when you transfer those over to airlines, that's going to be 2 airline miles per dollar in value that you get. So from that point of view, it is actually quite a good deal. If you're not a big spender and you can't get the spending bonus, then I don't think it's going to be a deal. It'd be a good deal. It becomes much more competitive between this card and cards like the Chase Sapphire Preferred or even the Sapphire Reserve. I mean, the Sapphire Preferred is in the same range. I call it tier 3, okay? Sort of around $100 annual fee, sometimes a little bit higher, a little bit lower. This card is $150. Sapphire Reserve is $95. But you know, the Sapphire Preferred, once you spend the $300 travel credit, the annual fee is down to $150 anyway. And it earns 3 points per dollar on travel and dining, and a 1 point on everything else, and transfers 1-to-1 to a load of transfer partners. So, you know, it gets a lot more competitive between these cards. Obviously, the Sapphire Reserve, you need a higher credit score. It's a $10,000 minimum limit as well. So, and you're going to have to be charged $450 as soon as you apply for it. So for some people, it might not be an option. So let's stick to comparing in tier 3, and I would say it is quite competitive with the Sapphire Preferred, especially if you get that spending bonus. You're basically getting 2 airline miles on everything, actually slightly more than 2. The Chase Sapphire Preferred gets 1 point on everything and then 2 points on travel and dining. So you wouldn't be getting 2 airline points on all spending. So it does actually come out on top. Of course, the Sapphire Preferred does have a sign-up bonus. Let's now just have a look at the airlines, and another reason why this card may be good for some people. Basically, if you are already a member of a frequent flyer program in one of the airlines that it transfers to, and you've already started to build up status and, you know, built up a balance of points that you want to add to, you know, if your airline is on that list, then this card would definitely be one that you could consider. So let's look at an example. My airline for Star Alliance, and if you don't know about airline alliances, basically you need to pick one airline in each alliance, and normally you can book flights on all the other airlines in that alliance with that airline's points. Okay, so for example, in One World, I use British Airways, and I can book flights on Japan Airlines with British Airways points. I wouldn't want to do it the other way around, use Japan Airlines to book British Airways, because I'm building up British Airways status and points and all that stuff. And so, for example, my airline in Star Alliance is Ever Air, which this card actually has as a transfer partner. So that would be super useful for me. I've already built up silver status with Star Alliance through Ever Air. I wouldn't want it through any other airline because Ever Air allows their silver members to go to their lounges in Taipei, and that's the most frequent route I do with a Star Alliance airline, going from New York to Taipei, and I really enjoy going to their lounges with my Ever Air pass. So even if I'm flying on United, I still want to use my Ever Air number and earn Ever Air miles and status. So the fact that I would be able to top up my Ever Air miles with miles from this card is actually a really great opportunity. I'm perhaps going to consider this, whether to get it or not. I might get it just because of the Ever Air situation. At my peak of going to Taiwan, I would be going 3 times a year. That's quite a lot. So it would definitely be useful for me to be able to transfer over to Ever Air and get some free trips or upgrade to business class or whatever. Now the last thing about this card is it does actually give you lounge access through Lounge Key. Lounge Key is actually run by the same people as Priority Pass, but it's a smaller selection, only 800 lounges compared to 1,000. And with this card, the type of membership it gives you, you have to pay $27 each time you go to a lounge. So this looks to me more like an afterthought. It's not that useful, to be honest. I would prefer to just either pay a bit more or get a different credit card that gives me free lounge access or a certain amount of free passes. For example, the Amex Hilton Ascend card, that gives 10 free Priority Pass lounge access passes per year. So if you're only traveling 2 or 3 times a year, that would probably be enough for you. And you can go in for free every time up to 10 times. Alternatively, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, if your credit and income is good enough to get it, it works out at about $150 a year after you deduct the travel credit, and it gives you unlimited Priority Pass lounge access anyway. But saying that, just to finish off, I think this card is definitely kind of interesting and definitely worth looking into if you are already a member of one of the frequent flyer programs that can transfer to from this card, and you want to earn their points and their status, and B, if you are a big spender and you can spend over $2,000 a month or over $25,000 per year, so you can get that extra 25,000 points, which makes it 3 points per dollar and thus 2 airline points per dollar when you transfer over for most of the airlines, except for Japan Airlines. So guys, leave your thoughts on this card and the transfer partners in the comment section below. Obviously, we haven't talked about all the airlines. There are some pretty exciting ones like Etihad. It's pretty desirable for those routes that transfer through the Middle East. So there's a lot more that can be talked about these airlines. But what do you think about it? Are you going to apply for this card? Would love to hear your thoughts. As always, please subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.